Hi, Vardha. Hi, Vivek. Am I audible?
Hi, Subhash. Yeah, you are audible. I was
Okay,
listening.
thank you.
Yes, sure.
Just waiting for another 3 minutes before we start.
Sure.
Okay. So, yeah, if you have any thought on some discussion or any agenda item which you feel we can discuss, please add it to shared link. Uh, yeah, already we crossed the 3 minutes from our scheduled meeting time. So, shall we start if you're okay? Because today I think we are seeing very few folks have joined.
Yeah, Thanksgiving week in US. But we can
Right.
start. We can start because people are here. No?
Okay, sure. Yeah. Um. Okay. So let's start today's meeting. So today is 23rd, and just before going to today's agenda items, I'll just give a quick recap. What exactly we did on last week. So there were some user stories that we discussed, and some comments on user story that we discussed. And Sandeep has given some ideas around the closed loop automation framework. And Bernard also he has filled a user story template. So that is needed for the R3, and that already we discussed in the SIG 1 meeting on last Monday. And then I extended the meeting a little further, and we were discussing about some thoughts around the service assurance, some queries, and how exactly we are thinking around the modeling. So these were the some quick recap. And today I have planned to discuss two items. One from the Bernard, the user stories, means like what further he think around the.
I think he got dropped or it's only for me.
Yeah, I think he's dropped.
Right. Yeah.
Hi everyone. Sorry, my Zoom got crashed and I was talking continuously. Am I audible now?
Yes.
Yeah, I keep on continuously talking and I finished and that I noticed it. Uh, I hope you're able to hear the quick recap that I was sharing.
No, actually, you just started on. Maybe you have to repeat whatever you
Okay,
told
sure.
the last 3 minutes.
Okay. So just I'll go through the quick recap on the last week items. So last week we were discussed about the comments on the user story. So those comments were on the increasing the capacity of the UPF and some future oriented user comments. So that we discussed, and then Sandeep had given his ideas, his thoughts around the closed loop automation framework. So that is for the implementation side, how what he thinks. And Bernard also discussed on the user story impact analysis. So he has filled the template provided by the Bala for the R3 related activities. And in this particular story, we are going to implement some APIs. So requirement has been given for the API. So in those API, we are trying to correlate the high level intent with the resources. Okay, and the last one, we extended the meeting further. We were trying to discuss more technical details on service assurance, means like how the NF topology looks like, how we can take advantage to realize the service assurance. So those modeling aspects, queries also I had raised, and we were trying to do a brainstorming just to bring the ideas around the service assurance. So this was the quick recap. And this week, I'm thinking we will discuss on these two points uh, to make impact analysis more mature. So what Bernard thinks around it, that user story. And the second one, I have tried to capture some modeling aspect. And also the last week we had gone through some discussion, right? So just I was trying to correlate everything and trying to put all the thoughts so that we can realize the service assurance in different context. Okay, and yeah, I have kept one section for the attendees also. So if you won't mind, you just add your name here. Okay. So let me check if Bernard is available. Then we'll go to the first item. Okay. Since Bernard is not available. Okay. So we'll directly jump on the second item then. Service assurance information model. So what I was preparing some content. Um, to understand the details, like and also I have raised the query, like we need some help from the work group 4 around the modeling, so that in service assurance, if anything we implement, that will be completely synchronized with the overall architecture design. All the consideration had been taken, so that with that thought. So I was just collecting few information. Just I'll revisit it, and I'll come to the model. So I was checking the Google seed code. I think it got provided at the time of beginning of the R1. So there I was checking the topology model, topology here. So what I observed, that there is a NF deploy, one bigger set, and that contains multiple sites. Okay, so a site you can visualize like a NF, and if you go closer to the custom resource, you will find that it contains the package related information about UPF, SMF, AMF, and then each NF is connected to each site is connected by connectivity connectivity key. So that you can assume that it is a neighbor. And this looks like our topology. Like there is a top level NF deploy, and there is a NF, and these are correlated. And also, okay, I'll put in slideshow mode. Also, in the seed code, they had provided this architecture. So there was top level CR, or top level intent NF deploy. So that was getting consumed by our NF deploy controller. And in one side it was getting hydrated and getting deployed, and another side it also contains the deployment controller, so which is responsible for collecting the status of that NF. and to check whether it is deployed or not. So in that, watcher agent is involved and edge watcher is involved. So it's a gRPC client server implementation. So it exposes the gRPC server and it pushes it informs about the NF deployment, and accordingly it will updates the NF instance deployment status, and in this way it prepares the topology. And also their discussion started on the NF topology controller, so that Steven is doing it, and possibly he will deliver in R2. Please stop me if you have any questions. Okay, I'll not able to see your hand, so yeah, please just directly interrupt me. So in this implementation, I observed that there's a NF topology CR, a top level intent. So that is consumed by topology controller, and here NF topology after consumption it spits out a package variant. So again, the package variant set consumed by package variant controller, and finally some package revision get pushed to the our Git repository related to workload, and finally the config sync fetches it and deploys it. So, but in this process, actually, we create a package, and based on the package, we create one topology also, and the thing only remains that what is the status about its deployment. So also the observability team, they are working to push this information from workload cluster and try to fetch push towards the management cluster. So you will find one observability module get implemented here, and it will push the observability related it's like a deployment related information to NF topology controller, and using that it will update the stats about this topology, and in that way we'll able to see what is deployed and what is not deployed. So that is the just I'm giving in a high level picture.
I think Chandra has raised his hand.
Yeah, Chandra, please go ahead.
Sorry, I think in the first slide which you show on site, okay, does that mean the region particular?
Here,
Yeah, site or NF you shown. Is it site means, is it a region in which network function is deployed or a cluster?
yeah, I understood in this way. The site depicts you the workload cluster where you need to deploy it. So how we have the H1, H2, or any. So in this way, each cluster is segregated. So it depicts that.
Right. So, and all these things you derived, is it? It's not having any particular model or I mean, there's no inventory module itself within the entire NAPU as of now, right? Is that current understanding right?
Uh, uh, Inventory again, I would comment in this way. Inventory is getting managed inside the etcd database. Like if you talk about the workload, there's a workload CR which tracks all the workload cluster. So you will find information related to workload name, and the CNI is there. So those things you can find it.
Yeah, but I think what I meant to say is like, for example, if I take an ONAP like solution, you have active available inventory, which tracks the entire model. So way you describe a model right from the top, like a CR, and then we have multiple things associated with it. But
Right.
is that etcd DB which we are talking about having such relationship maintained, or we are proposing trying to build this information model in some kind of a inventory kind of a DB further?
Yeah, we are also asking the same question. Like we need a one relationship between
Yes.
all these resources and at the high level intent. So that modeling we are asking from the workgroup 4. And again, I would say this information like a site or network or package variant. So these all informations are available, but we would like to visualize with some relation. So that model actually we are asking, and also we are trying to identify it.
Got it. So it's not already available. It is just we are trying to identify based on the code and available relationship within the model which you set. Okay. Got it.
Yeah, it could be available, but yeah, I'm also not sure. I'm trying to raise those questions. If it's available, let's make some structure. Let's give a shape to it, and definitely for service assurance, it is very much needed that we have the that hierarchical relation in place, so that we can when we go for the correlation, we take the advantage. So
Yeah, I think definitely. So that's
yeah,
the first building block, I would say, in order
yeah,
to have those resource and services relationship. If you
right,
don't have even resource relationship, I think we won't be able to do a service assurance
correct,
effectively.
correct.
Okay. All right.
It is there. Some pieces definitely you'll able to see in the custom resource. But yeah, we want to fix it, and we want everyone should be come in a common page and say that yeah, this is the high level intent and this is the resources are related. And basically, I would say the work group 4 should provide a information model, and everyone gets sync from there.
Okay. All right.
Okay. Yeah. Thank you for raising this question. So I'll go ahead. So yeah, and also this is available in the documentation, where we see a high level NF topology in the topology controller implementation. Actually, I'm talking about. So there you'll find NF topology, and it has the NF instances. And again, it contains the information about the package reference. So like it contains information about which package need to be deployed for this NF class. So like for the UPF, we need to deploy a certain package. So those information are available in the NF instance, and it again it goes for the hydration process, and finally we will deploy it. And also here we update the stats about each deployment, and and the NF topology controller tracks this particular CR for the deployment. Okay, but yeah, still we are asked we need some more information from the Steven. It's like how we can use it. Actually, we are taking it as a reference implementation, so that we can understand understand it and go for different use case in the service assurance. Okay, so I was trying to go through the one spec from the Etsy, that is the TS28536, and I was just trying to refer it, and I was trying to come up with some high level view on the service assurance model. So like here we are trying to deploy the NF topology, right? So after that we'll able to deploy the NF instances, and also we will able to create the NF topology. But when we talk about the service assurance, so there are multiple things are involved. We could have a assurance related, I mean, assurance on a different domain with a different domain knowledge also. Like suppose in the core you can have the assurance about the assurance on the some monitor QS, or some secure QS, or if you see some end-to-end deployment from RAN to core, you might be asking like I need a coverage assurance, or there are different ways to think around the assurance. Like some in the RAN side, you will find geo performance or geo optimization. So different things, use cases are available around the service assurance. I think, but yeah, please feel free to comment on it. So with that scenario, definitely we need to have some model which captures our intent around those use cases. So topology also talks about one scenario like what is my deployment assurance. You can think in this way, or you can assume that even for the Nephew platform, um, it provides you Nephew platform availability assurance. Like if it tracks all the deployment, right? If something is not up, let's do some action and try to bring up that particular module or try to root cause it. So it provides you another kind of assurance that your platform is always up. So same thing you can visualize in the term of the NF, or maybe a different KPI parameters around the QoS, or even I'll give a bigger example like in the with a RAN or a core. You can think around the coverage. Means I need to I need to provide a better coverage to my consumers, or provide a better QoS. So different kind of assurance are there, and they will try. They will also have its own kind of a topology. Their relation would be different. Their high level intent would be different, right? So that thought we can think of. So once we are able to deploy the NF topology, right? Um, um, I feel like it does not satisfy our assurance need. We need a separate CR which affects our hydration process, or package hydration at the time of package creation. It affects there, and create a package in such a way that it fulfills our requirement, or it configures the observability. Just I'll give the example like it will with the assurance we should able to create those observability parameters, we should able to decide which entities are involved in assurance loop, and which action or which policy I need to be applied if a certain trigger happens. So that I try to capture in this model. Possibly with this model we can try to create our CR. So here I see that we need the high level CR. We can put like a assurance loop, and that will have another entity, assurance goal. So the assurance goal would be like coverage, or some QoS, or some session traces. It's like whatever you want to whatever like a QoS parameter, or I can think like application you want to enable just to ensure your better performance. So that thing you can put in your assurance goal. So assurance loop could have the multiple assurance goal. And again, like assurance loop is related to one NF topology. Okay. So in assurance goal, I think like we should have a target list. So the target would have which NF entity need to be tracked or observed, which key I need to observe it, and what should be the value. And also we should say that if certain this could be taken as some trigger, and we need to say that some action or some policy should be triggered if this threshold reached, or some kind of after some time of processing, if this target is reached, I need to take this action. Okay. Or you can think if I give an example, you can think like suppose your assurance goal is your UPF. UPF should always be available with 80% of a load or availability. So those parameters you configure it, and in action you can see that if I'm able, if my CPU utilization or the load is reaching to 80%, I should trigger the scaling policy. So that will bring changes on the package revision. It will create a one new package revision, and it will get deployed to your workload cluster. So that thought actually I have around the target and around the policy. Okay. Any questions on this one?
Um,
Yes,
just
Jessica. Yeah.
a little bit broader question. Okay, I mean,
Yeah, sure.
this entire assurance goal, assurance loop, what you were saying. Okay, so first of all, calling it as a service, I just wanted to understand the intention out of it. So, thing is,
Okay. Mhm.
if you look at an overall architecture which is being built, be it a RAN domain or be it a core domain as of now, so it's like you got a service orchestrator at the top, or you can say a service assurance at the top, and
Mhm.
lower level is our nephew. Okay.
Right.
So I was just trying to see the boundaries, okay, up to which we can go. Okay. I mean, so when you
Right.
talk about this, it's like a domain, right? So I have a RAN domain, and for example, now today we have an SMO, which is specifically monitoring the RAN resources. What you talk about, a little bit of coverage and all that stuff are being monitored by that particular SMO. So
Right.
when you bring in nephew,
Mhm.
I mean, is it something we are trying to conflict with above layer, or is it like we are trying to augment that? And when you say service, is it
Mhm.
service in the context of a network or service in the context of what we're providing to the customer?
Yeah, I'll just clarify it. So that service term actually was creating a big confusion at the beginning also. So we have clarified that service is again nephew managed low level services. It is not a high level services which into an orchestrator will handle it. But yeah, we are calling it as it's a nephew managed services. It's a low level. So currently we are targeting at the NF level and the infra level. But yeah, but if you see the first document that we produced, so there we have put some a higher level also. So that clarification, if we receive it, we may increase, we may go beyond to the sorry upper boundaries or service layer. We'll touch it. But yeah, currently we are trying to focus on NF layer, NF and infra layer. So these two we are touching it where the nephew is involved. So here I was trying to give the thoughts uh, uh,
No,
how
I
we
think
can. Yeah,
about the architecture, I'm pretty clear. Okay, so
yeah,
what you said about assurance loop, we
yeah,
should have assurance goal within it, and with that,
yes,
we should take the actions or some of the policies that we can trigger in order to close loop it. And then, I mean, that is something required when we talk about the NIPU automation. So that shouldn't go beyond this NIPU controller towards the SMO at all. Because if
yes,
we
yes,
are able to resolve the issues related to KTS cluster and specifically to the CNF, which is utilizing the KTS cluster, all that stuff should happen within that controller. So that is fine. Okay, I'm not
yes,
against it, and I'm pretty much with you around it.
yeah,
So what I'm thinking is just the boundaries that we are setting in and how upper layer can consume this stuff. So
yeah,
moment you
exactly.
say the hierarchies and all this stuff, okay, it would
Mm-hmm.
have to be exposed back to the certain layer as well, which is like a manager of manager, I would say. Okay. It
Yes,
is
yes,
not just KTS, I mean, it is just not CNF. Maybe if you can think of a network, it is combination of routers, switches, and everything. So there could be a manager of managers sitting outside, or you can call it as a simple OSS. Then you have to expose this back, okay,
yeah,
typically.
yeah,
So in that context, are we trying to fit together all of this? Because this then we'll have to just expand this a bit. For example, when we say RAN, right? So RAN, we've got the CUDU and let's say RU as a combination, and we call it as a G node B in a overall sense. So
yeah,
if I call G node B as a particular infrastructure service in the sense of NAPIO, I'm going to monitor this three. But what I'm saying is the boundary for monitoring it, it may not be lower application level again. Okay, so when we say lower application level, there are norms already being placed in where monitoring has been being done at the application level. But infrastructure level, definitely yes, from the pod status and all that stuff, what we can bring in, definitely that should be the scope. I'm just trying to create a boundaries. Otherwise, it is going to be we are going
Yes,
to
yes,
do
yes.
the same thing what SMO is doing, or we are
Yeah,
going to
yeah,
do
yeah. I
the same
totally
thing
agree.
that the
Yeah.
core assurance would be doing.
Yeah. Actually, we if you check our uh, like boundary miss we were trying to define in one of the slide. So we have already said that this service assurance in the nephew will serve to the higher level bigger or higher level service assurance loop. So we are trying to produce data for a higher level, and also maybe someone else also want to consume it, they can consume it. Yeah. So that we are clear. Means we are currently not targeting the end-to-end services, so that we are not targeting it, and also not targeting the SMO. So we are trying to say that it is a nephew managed services. Those are lower layer constructs, and of course I agree. You talk about the applications, right? Which sets very high. So that also we are not targeting. And yeah, something you mentioned about the very low level applications, right? So that I missed it, that part. Could you please elaborate on it?
No, when I say very lower level, it is
Mm-hmm.
like, so for example, if I take the RAN example today, I'm just trying
Mm-hmm.
to, if nephew is not in the picture, then how do I monitor it? Okay, so what I do is there is some agent sitting in there
I
within
see.
the RAN, and then it produces some events, and those events are captured by the let's say that collector, and then collector provides, and we just process that data. So that's one example. But I think from the nephew perspective, what we really thinking on is more on a KTS side, how I can assure it more
Correct.
on a KTS
Correct.
side, right? So that's the intention, right?
Yeah.
So
Uh,
administration state and then operational state, this is all fine because this is all related to typically this one. But if I go beyond it, like for example, you said coverage, right? Coverage is bit of a more broader topic in terms of monitoring, because you need a traces and logs and all to manage this, and that comes from within application. That's the reason I
right.
was just trying to understand when we say whether we want to go beyond certain level, and what is that level up to where we should go, because then in ecosystem we cannot bring in this NAPIO plus upper service assurance and domain assurance, or sorry, domain service assurance, and then on top the end-to-end assurance. Okay, so there are two
Yeah.
three layers that we are thinking of. So if we if we do not set boundaries at this point of time, I mean, we may not be able to fit this in an overall context that we are talking about. So, like for example, in ORAN, we are trying to align, and here we would have another model. That is something I was just trying to correlate to. If it is already discussed, it is fine.
Yeah. Yeah.
It's
Yes.
still okay.
Yep. Right. I agree with your thoughts actually. I think when you talk about agent, if I understand correctly, you are mentioning about best agents which generates the best event, right?
Best
And
events, yeah,
yeah,
typically, yes. That's the agent I'm talking about. That is what is actual application monitoring I'm referring to
yeah,
within the network function. If you are trying to access something, okay, but if
yeah,
you are accessing peripherals of it from the Kubernetes perspective, I think that is what Nephew should do ideally. But I'm not sure if that topic was discussed, and we are going beyond that a little bit, where we can say yes, we can go inside the little bit of applications as well and try to resolve the issues related to that. So yeah, that is something I just need to refer the documents if it is already discussed in any of the uses.
okay. Yeah. Actually, Chandrasekhar, with this discussion, actually, I'm getting a thought also. I had some thoughts around like the service assurance module. Could take some analytics information from the outside entity. It's like which is not in our boundary, or it could consume from the external system. So that thought is like still it's like a debatable. I don't know the exact answer. Should we include it or should we not include it? because why I'm bringing that thought, because it might possible that using the ML algorithm, we can consume ML models would be sitting somewhere outside. It is consuming this low level data, maybe from the west events, or maybe related to even observability module,
Yeah,
KTS related
KPIs and
KPIs.
performance management data. Yeah, that is
Yeah,
available. Yeah, true.
let's say that ML model consuming it and trying to generate some information. And would it be a right that our assurance module consume it and enriches our actually goal? I mean, it's like a it optimizes the thing based on that external system. So that could be one possible source for information actually for the assurance model. So
Yeah, I
that
mean,
answer. Mm,
in reality, if you see the enrichment, okay, so you
mm,
got all the details with you when we actually say provisioning this entire network function and configuring things. That means you have the view of all the parameters of configuration, all the actual network function deployment parameters, everything you have a view. Okay,
right,
that's where we have defined the CRDs, and that's where you were able to actually spawn those on the KTS cluster. Okay. Now, when you talk about enrichment, yes, you can, because there is a possibility that those details which are not available to the external system, we can actually provide it. Because the
right,
moment we say we just want to consume the intent, and upper layer should just express the intent saying, I want to deploy this network function. That's the intent that we are looking at. So ideally, all the details lies up with this NEPIO controller, or what you can say a NEPIO layer in between. So typically, all these things can be actually enriched and provided back to the other system if they really want to do something on top of it. Okay, and that is what
right.
initially, if you talk about concepts of SMO, so from the core perspective, I'm not talking, but SMO is quite evolved from that sense, that how it should be consumed and how it should be processed, augmented, and typically how it should be correlated even. Okay, so correlation was little bit uh, not developed much, but then everyone is talking about in some different tool set, whoever
Yeah,
trying to monitor the RAN data. But what I'm saying is they definitely need that data. So if they are not aware about all of this, they just express the intent and everything has to be handled within this NAPIA controller. So our job of enrichment becomes more kind of relevant for the upper
mm,
layer for consumption. Definitely, yes, enrichment. I don't think there is any other source if other layer is not known to all those parameters, because we are trying to hide a complexity, and that complexity lies within the name, how way we bring up the CRTs. So that is fine. I mean, enrichment should be fine. Correlation at some level should also be okay. And once you provide it back to the upper layer can take some more action. It is like a domain and subdomain concept, if I put it in that way. Okay, so
I
uh,
totally agree. Yeah,
yeah, manager of manager. Earlier we had, okay, where we had multiple NMSs and EMSs providing all the data. Now you got that one domain on the top, which is the domain control, or not domain controller, but you can say a domain assurance system. And then below this, there is an APO, which is taking care of all your KTS related complexity and the network function related complexity even for the configuration. Then
mhm,
ideally it is like, from a subdomain perspective you can resolve few things, from the domain perspective you can resolve few more things, and on top of that end-to-end assurance can happen at top layer. Okay, so we can go at the level where we want to. Probably we can stitch together everything, because we would say we have a uh, we have the availability and access to everything, but it may not be possible to go beyond KTS, right? So we are stick to the
right,
KTS when we
right,
talk
right.
about NetView. Okay, that is what my intention was, to create the boundaries in between different layers. So if we are able to create it, I mean, it is difficult. I know, I understand, but I
Yeah,
mean, we can just try and provide some boundaries saying, okay, this is what we can do. This is what upper layer should do. And this is what end-to-end layer should do, okay, in terms of getting any service assurance in place. Because if I take then all of this together, okay, it won't make sense. Otherwise, then we would don't need an end-to-end service assurance in that case. But it is
Right.
Nepio won't cater all this stuff, okay, because it would cater mostly the KTS and other.
But yeah, still, I think one discussion I remember it. We were talking about configurable observability module so that it can read some external system or external information. So that discussion we had it. So I had this in my mind that tomorrow we can have some external running ML model that will help us to get some new information, like or maybe new observability parameter analyzed by externally from the externally from Nepio. So that thought I had, and still, I mean, I think we should discuss more on this topic. Like, what should be the exact boundary? Should we add some interface which retrieves the external information and take more informed decision, or shall we only limit to till KTS and try to only consume those parameters which is generated by KTS? So still, miss, I think that extension should be provide, or no, miss, like I feel we need a discussion, I think.
Yeah, so
What do
probably
you think?
the first one should be KTS anyways, because
Yeah, yeah.
that is the
That
basic
we are
scope.
correct,
Yeah,
correct.
that
That I
is basic
totally agree.
scope. If we go beyond that, where ML algorithms and everything, those would be consumed by anyone. So I would say it's like a collection layer. So if you got the events in certain data lake, that you
Mm,
can cover up, or you call it algorithm, but I would still say it's a plain raw event where
right,
we haven't enriched it. Okay, let's say you can enrich it and send it back because you
right.
have the information with you. Even when we talk about the information model that we are trying to bring in, that information model too is like having loads of information relationship available. That information won't be available to the upper layer for sure. So
Okay.
you
Yeah.
have to provide it. You will have to enrich the events and send it back. And that external interface you will have to anyways build in, because we are owning the information model altogether, right from the configuration towards how it can be seen in the hierarchically, the relationship between them. I mean, I'm not going beyond a little bit of CUD and all, but cluster and the basic relationships, let's say cluster and the network function, where that it is lying.
Mhm.
Is it like it is on which cloud? So all these relationship we are maintaining, because we are ultimately going to be like one source truth where we say we can manage the KTS cluster, whether it is going to cloud or whether it's a bare metal or whatever, and then we're going to bring up the network functions on top of it. Those network functions relationship, we are trying to maintain it in our system. So in case any system requires this information, it would be the one source point of contact, whether you want to enrich it via event or whether you want to expose this hierarchy back. Okay, so way information model would work is possibly we'll have to expose this back. I don't think TMF 638 as of now, but maybe similar
Okay.
to that, we can expose like those kind of a hierarchical relationship back as well, whoever is needed. But enrichment, definitely, I would say events, if we are able to enrich it, the upper system would utilize those enriched events like on a
Yeah.
Kafka topic, and then they can utilize it for more informed, they can take a more informed kind of a decision. So
Yeah.
from our
Exactly. Yeah.
perspective, the SLAs and the QoS and stuff, I guess we should be it should be confined to somehow on a KTS as of now. But if we can think beyond it, then we are just trying to bridge little bit of boundaries. But if we see that boundaries breach is okay somehow, or taking out a load of other system, then we are okay to do that. But I think that should be in a future requirement. So first thing, basic, we should
Yeah. Yeah.
try to an enrichment.
Yeah. Chansika, if you won't mind, could I assign one action item to you? Because you brought very interesting discussion, like to provide a boundary for it. So I think if you give a small documentation or small somewhere, if you capture it, so that we can more debate on it or more discuss on it.
Yeah, maybe I'll just try to put one slide together. I don't know the next call if it is TSC meeting conflicting. So TSC meeting was not there today, so I joined this call. But yeah, maybe I'll just try to put together, and we'll have a comments and everything, and we can discuss in the next call.
Yeah, because it is a very important topic you have brought it. So if everyone would get a chance to give a thought around it, maybe that will help us to converge somewhere.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Sure.
Okay. I'll add just this action item to you.
And Vance also has raised his hand.
Yeah, Vance. Sorry, I did not see your hand. Yeah, please go ahead. Vance, are you there? Okay.
I am here. Yeah.
Yes. Yeah.
Well, I'm trying to fit this up into perspectives, because there's a we've always got different perspectives, right? Like you can look at an object. If you look at it from the side, you think it's square. You look at it from the top, it turns out to be round, right? So lots of perspectives. Now, I think mainly the perspective you're looking at is, I mean, you're referring to network functions, but really the perspective that you're looking at is the compute perspective. So these are software entities, and the software is being distributed, executed, and there are endpoints associated with that software. And that's what you're able to do assurance on here, because you don't know what these network functions are actually doing. Is that fair?
The network functionality you might say that, right? So that I would say we have some context on UPF or SMF, AMF network functionality, and that I am trying to put as a assurance goal.
What do you, okay? So what do you mean by context?
Because I see like
sure, you can put a tag on it and you can say that thing is an AMF, but that's not really doing very much.
Mm-hmm.
So the point is that the software is part of an application, right? So there's an application layer above, which is another perspective, and it's a network application. So you know, we have an understanding of what it is, but you don't really know what's going on, because that network function was provided by Nokia, Ericsson, ZTE, SIG Scale, Mavenir, whoever, right? And they all do their own thing, unfortunately. And so unless we have models, which is what I always talk about, right? So unless we have models and we're conforming to the models then enforce some structure that we can understand. But until we've done that, what you're showing on the screen here, really, the perspective that we're going to deal with is about how these things are wired up within the environment that we control. So within Kubernetes, and we don't, I mean, you know, talked about customer service. Well, we're so far away from that, we would have no idea, right? None, and not even that we should, but but even network service. So when an AMF, as an example, it provides services. It has N2 interfaces and N3 interfaces. You know, do we have that perspective? That's not clear to me yet. I haven't seen that. if you can say you have all the configuration, but if it's just a jumble of data that is proprietary to that vendor, then it doesn't really mean very much, right?
Okay. So if I understand correctly, so you meant to say that whenever we create a NF instance, we don't have idea about what is exact which NF is a SMF, UPF, or we don't have those contexts, right? If I understand correctly.
Well, you don't have any information about what it's doing as an SMF.
Okay. So if I understand correctly, Vince, so when we go to deploy any NF instance, or I would say the package variant, so that time we say that we would like to deploy a package with the UPF class or SMF class. So that context we have it. Okay. So the finally we get a package and we try to deploy at the workload cluster. Okay. And if you see this diagram here, okay, yeah. So here we try to deploy by the our free 5GC operator will deploy some UPF, SMF, or AMF, anything, right? And then we fetch its deployed status, and then we correlate it. So definitely we from the workload cluster we are trying to fetch some information which was not available at the management cluster, and the management cluster and workload cluster only they are related by this Git repository, right? So something we need to derive it to understand how to mark that status is up for.
Well, you're finding out things that are at the IT level. This is what I'm saying. You can see how busy that processor is. You can see utilization. You can even see IO, but you can't see like the number of SCTP associations. You cannot see the number of transactions that
Yeah.
the SMF performed.
Okay. I got it. I got it. Your question. So if you I was mentioning one module here, right? Observability here that will sit in the management cluster, and currently we are putting this all the problems at the observability. Like we would say that we need KPI parameters related to this particular infra or this particular NF. So they will observe it, and with some mechanism it will produce it. So that problem already we are putting on the observability module. So is it okay, Vince? So we are setting that boundary and we are trying to solve from there. Am I able to am I covering your question, or
No,
is it
no, you're certainly not covering my concern.
Okay.
Yeah, I think if I understand correctly, once it's like you want to just make sure that what application is trying to do, literally, for example, SMF functionality, it's a big functionality. It's a group of, let's say, hundreds of containers, not hundreds, 20 containers, let's say an example. Okay. So our job as an APO is not to see how those 10, 20 containers are kind of interacting with each other. Our job is that 10, 20 containers within KTS cluster as a pod, are they consuming more than required CPU? Or is it like they are, we are monitoring their external things, but not going inside an application to see, okay, like you take an example, you took an example of an SCTP connections that are open outside and how it is being utilized, let's say, by the other RAN. That's not our job to monitor that stuff.
Right. And you just have to be clear about that, right?
Yeah.
So everyone needs to be clear about it. And here's something really important that emerges from that realization, that you have to be open, because you're not doing the whole job, right?
Yeah.
So this is what I said in the previous meeting. Don't think about it as you're going to do the assurance. Think about it as you're going to enable the assurance systems to do the assurance. So the job is enabling. You really need to enable the application level assurance systems to do their job. And it's really important, because this is what's happened as we move from appliances to softwareization, and we move from virtual machines, which was really a simple mapping from bare metal, and then we moved to container orchestration, and with the more modern orchestration systems, things are dynamic and they're fluid and things are moving around. And what has happened is that people have just said, well, I mean, you can't know about it anymore because it's intent and etc. Well, that's not okay, right? Because the assurance systems still need to do their job. And so it's not okay to say, don't worry about it, we're taking care of it, and then making it opaque, because you're not taking care of everything. You're only taking care of one domain, and it's one of many, right? So there needs to be end-to-end cross-domain assurance going on, and those systems, if you're opaque, they can't do their job, right? So this is what I'm saying. The main job here is to do assurance, is to solve that opaqueness problem, and to just make it visible to external systems.
Okay, Vince, I have taken your points. So the thing is that, Miss, we need to set the boundaries, I think, if I understand correctly. So that will help us to define what could be consumed and what should be produced. I feel, right?
Yeah,
Am I
absolutely. And the other thing is that what we can do to move into the future, and not just support what happened in the past, is to host closed loops for those external systems, right? So exporting a capability that says, you give me the thing to run, that you need to have running in a tight closed loop, and we're going to run it for you, right? That is a capability that those assurance systems could really use, and if you provide that capability, then you've done a fantastic job.
okay. So, let me ask the question. So, do you think we should create a closed loop in the service assurance itself? Service assurance in the NEPIO itself, or the input
Well, it's
for creating the closed loop? Input for the creating the closed loop should come from somewhere higher level. So, what do you think?
What I'm saying is that so you need to interface to those external systems, right? So those external systems, you need a northbound interface, if you will, and on that interface, you need to allow those assurance systems to have a good view of everything that goes on. Now, there's different ways to accomplish that: push, pull, different methods of synchronization. But at a minimum, those systems should be able to query, right? They should be able to say, hey,
Right.
what's going on with that thing? And then you give them a response. And that's sort of the minimum thing. But another capability is that you provide a service to them where they say, I want you to run this code, essentially, right? And this is sort of the more difficult part, is how is that represented? But call it a policy then, right? Where I want you to just every 5 minutes check this measurement, and every 3 minutes check that measurement. And if this one divided by that one is greater than this amount, then do this, right? Something like that, right? So that then takes care of a lot of problems where otherwise we would have to have a tremendous amount of volume on that northbound interface, where you can eliminate that because you can run the control loop.
Evans, sorry to interrupt. Already we crossed 10:30, so some folks would like to join TSC meeting. But I'm okay to keep continuing discussing because this is the interesting thing you have brought.
Right. My 2 cents. See, Chandra brought the issue of scope, right? K8S level. Let's define the scope. And the second one is about what Vance is telling. Hey, definitely, whatever may be the level, it can be at a K8S level. Definitely you need some external system to do beyond, what is called the consumer service, definitely Nephew cannot do. So you also have to be an enabler for a, service assurance of external system. My view, Subash, you can paste it, the 2 documents which talks about observability framework, because observability framework not just talks about K8S, it also talks about application. Okay, so they should have a view, and the second thing is, even, you need to see, there are some 5-6 meetings which has happened already, right? So in the first meeting, you talked about multiple closed loops, isn't it? So that side also you need to put it, and maybe, Vance and Chandra can take a look at it. You got my point?
Yeah, sure, Vardhan.
Yeah. So it's something like what they want is, they want some enabling, don't say, give me intent and stop at Nephew. Give me some inputs back, you should also be an enabler. See, you can do closed loop, no problem at your level or whatever level you define, but you please also ensure that you support a sort of closed loop beyond you. You be an enabler of a service assurance beyond you. That was the question, if I understand correctly, from Vance. For both of these things, right, they need to look at your first, presentation on multiple closed loops, umbrella closed loops, as well as on the observability framework. Here they are missing observability framework, where they are talking about, application level metrics also apart from K8S.
Yeah.
So these 2 things you can put it on the Slack and specifically request Vance and Chandra to have a look at it, and maybe the next discussion will be more interesting.
Vance, if, could I just take your another 5 minutes if you are okay?
Yeah, sure.
So actually, I wanted to just get a clarification or your view on this particular thing that you mentioned, the boundary or how the high level assurance system could be integrated. It's like, is it not okay that this model we present as a CRD? So the SMO system which is sitting on the top, he will convey what assurance goal he wants to achieve in this particular domain or a particular subdomain. I would say the K8S, what he wants to achieve it. So if just by using the assurance goal or assurance loop, because he can provide this kind of information, right? And the visibility of different targets, it could visualize from some some type of topology. I would say assurance topology. From there, it can visualize it. So it will be exposed to higher level using that topology. It can interact with the service assurance that is running in the Nepio using the CRD. CRD in the form of assurance loop or assurance goal for different contexts or different with a different assurance thoughts, like it want to cater a different service. So with that thought, he can create a different type of CRDs and push towards the Nepio. What do you think? Is it okay if we give the combination of this topology information, which will be visible at the top, and the way to convey the intent from the higher level towards the nephew using this CRD? What do you think? Is it sufficient?
What do you mean using the CRD?
The CRD means like it will be north uh, 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 north direction API from the nephew towards SMO, and they can create this kind of uh, uh, objects in the nephew system. And means how we used to deploy the topology, right? It's like how we are going to consume from the top, right? We are going to create one NF topology, and finally it will get deployed in the different sites at a different workload cluster, and different NF is going to deploy. So similar thought I have it here, that the higher level will convey its assurance intent towards the nephew. Do you think is it correct? Means what is your opinion around it? Do you think I'm going
Well,
something different direction?
yeah, assurance intent, sure, right? So we can, but the question is how are you making that available? So I'm a little confused of what you're talking about CRD. Is like if you mean running, like I want to run my own control loop is what it is, right? I want to be the controller in the control loop. So the observability framework is bringing the information in. I want to monitor that information in real time and take actions. Like I might just say, look, let me know if the combination of these three metrics ever exceeds X, and then if it does, just inform me. That it could be that simple. But it might be more like I want you to change the configuration of Y whenever those things happen or something, right? But so, that's a control loop, and it should be as general as possible, but not don't say, well, we can do that. You just install your own operator. Well, no, we don't want to do that, right? So we want something else. The work in autonomous networks at the TM forum, they're doing some pretty interesting things. And so there's a framework, a technology framework there that we could look at for doing those things. But at this point in time, I'm just talking about high level capabilities. So look, that's a bit of a stretch goal anyway, right? The main thing is don't make this system opaque, and don't think that you're just going to do all the assurance that everybody needs and end of story, right? Won't work.
Right.
Won't work, right? So what we have to do is interface to external assurance systems, which are application aware, and they need the underlying information that you have. They don't have that information, so they can see that they've got some instability with their SCTP connections, but now they want to know why. So then they know where it appears at the application layer, and they need to be able to draw a line to what's going on underneath and what's being orchestrated by an FEO, and take it from there. So we need to be able to make that information available to them. So we need northbound fault management. So we should be able to configure fault events to be sent northbound when they occur, and that needs to be configurable in terms of not every single event, and maybe and we need to be able to change that in real time, right? So this particular event I want, or sorry, this particular network function I want these type of events, and the same network function, other types of events I'm not interested in them, or I only want to get them at this level. etc. And that all needs to be configured. And then we need metrics, right? So you collect the metrics. Now, do we work in a push or a pull mechanism with that, right? You could be like the legacy way of doing things is that you're basically running traffic studies, and so you're monitoring everything that's going on, and you're keeping counters, and then at some point in time you publish a report on all the counters. Sorry, was there a question?
No, go ahead. Sorry, go ahead.
Right. So that's the old model, right? But those traffic studies don't run all the time. So then the assurance system has an interface to configure those traffic studies. So I'm interested in doing a traffic study on this platform that we've just installed, and so I want a fairly intensive set of metrics collected and frequently reported on that. And then, okay, now I'm done with it, so now I want to turn that off. And that's the historical way that's been done. And then, of course, we do today in modern IT, we do a lot of streaming. But again, you can't stream everything, right? So you need to be able to turn. So some of the times what you want to do is do a study, and when you do a study, what you're doing is locally you're condensing things because you're just getting a counter. So you're saying like every minute or every 15 minutes or something, you will roll the counters over, and so that what gets reported is just the cumulative total and not one event for every single thing that happened. So that that certainly saves a lot of carbon emissions and bandwidth. So that's a mechanism that you really need to have. And then, like I said, streaming, of course, everybody wants streaming, but you should be able to configure that streaming. So you need a management interface that is allowing you to do that. And then you get into configuration and similar sort of things. I just want to see what all of the configuration for a particular function in a particular application is, etc. Right? So that needs to be visible. And the main trick to all of this stuff is that all of it has to be related to models, right? So when you're collecting, everybody's always talking about data. I'm always talking about information, because data is meaningless. You need to connect the data, and you need to turn the data into information. And one way to do it is machine learning, which everybody is quick to do. But even that is, well, I mean, that's a poor way of doing it. The proper way to do it is to structure your information from the beginning, right? So if I understand that an interface is used in this particular network interface relates to the 3GPP reference model, right? This is an N2 interface, or it's an N3 interface. Then we can know a lot more. We can get a lot more information out of that, right? So what we want is to have common information models, and to have all the network functions understand those network models and use those network models. Because the largest problem that we have today really is the integration cost. We've got all these different vendors, and they're changing their products all the time. So you've got all these different things that are coming and going off the network, and the cost to the operator of onboarding those things and integrating them is just enormous. And it would be less by a factor of 10 or 100 if those things behave very similarly. And so that's ultimately what we want.
Okay. Yeah, thank you, Vince, for enlightening with these thoughts. At this point, I completely agree that we should have some view on enabling the higher level service assurance. I mean, like we should enable it, and we should not try to make it opaque. but I need to identify some clear end-to-end model and to converge means like what exactly we are doing in assurances. What should be the functionality we should have it. So I think if we go down to the some examples or some use case that may help us to clearly understand the picture. So that I'll try to put some thoughts and try to come up with examples. So that means we
Yeah.
converse.
Well, that's always best. And
Yeah.
if we have concrete examples, then I can provide concrete proposals.
Yeah.
You know, I'm very likely to try and create a low impedance match with the TM Forum frameworks, right? ODA and all of that. Which some argument, I mean, anything to do with commercial, you know, things that are going into products and customer facing, that's a given, right?
Okay.
But in the network management side, it's less of a given. But but if we do have a seamless integration, a low impedance match with the information model and the open APIs, it means that, you know, the where we have to connect services which are going into products with network services, which are the things that are being delivered by the network. If, you know, we can make that a seamless integration, then it lowers the cost for everybody and it makes things work really well, especially assurance.
Yes.
So what we want to do ultimately is service assurance, and here we're using service in the TM Forum service domain sense, right? Services are the customer facing things, the things that go into products, the things that you sell. And we need to be able to, that's what we want to assure ultimately, right? So we need to be able to understand the relationship between that and the network services and all of the network functions. And not only because, you know, that's a very complex thing. Like, for example, we want to predict things. So if I know that that we need to do some activity and there's going to be an interruption in a data center, I would like to know what customers are affected by that interruption, right? You know, those sort of things.
Yeah, sure. Yeah, thank you, Vince, this insight. And yeah, definitely we should to narrow down to examples. So if I request, if anyone has thoughts around what exactly the SMO needs, I'm just requesting like some small example is what SMO needs. Just ping over Slack, so that that will give some ideas to everyone. Is how they can that can be delivered at the service assurance in the NFU. So please try to share some thoughts, some examples, so that we can build upon it. And yeah, I'll try to get some small example next week and try to discuss around it. Yeah, and thank you everyone for bringing a lot of the ideas and enlightening everyone. Yeah, thank you and have a good day. And thank you for extending the time.
Right.
Thanks so much.
Thank you.
Thank you, everyone. Bye-bye. Have a nice day.